a quiet, backward country in South America dominated by the Andes Mountains. High in the Andes Mountains is a remote valley with a secret it has yet to give up, the secret of long life. 5,000 feet up in a valley called Vilcabamba live some of the oldest people in the world. It's an area which is beginning to fascinate scientists everywhere. Tonight, World in Action travels to Vilcabamba, the old country. By a freak in the weather, this valley, though surrounded by cloudy and darkened mountains, was sunlit. We were told the sun nearly always shone here. This place was called Vilcabamba. The name means Valley of Paradise. The valley was a mile high in the Andes, but not too remote. 5,000 people live here, yet in the area just around the village, which has a population of about 800, 15 were said to be over 100. An astonishing ratio. If the same proportion were to be repeated here, Britain would have nearly 250,000 centenarians. Yet some of the activities we first found in Vilcabamba were not calculated to encourage long life. Vilcabamba's only factory. It makes rum. Local sugar cane is brought here, and the factory crushes it into juice, the makings of a local rum. Many of the old men in the valley drink 3 or 4 cups daily. It's unlikely that the secret of long life will be found here. This Ecuadorian rum is 110% proof, half as strong again as Scottish whiskey. The valley's agriculture is thriving and self-sufficient, and the people work in the fields all year round. Vilcabamba is very fertile, but the valley's major crop doesn't exactly encourage long life either. It's tobacco. Whatever the secret of the Valley of Paradise, it seems unlikely to be the consumption by some old men of 40 cigarettes a day. But despite the local fondness for rum and tobacco, this time we seem to have found the right place. We could see that just by walking into the village and stopping people in a street.
¿Cuántos años tiene?
How old are you?
101 years old.
How old are you?
91.
91. ¿Cuál es su nombre?
My name is Angel Modesto Bruneo.
¿Cuántos años tiene usted?
I'm 90.
¿Y usted cuántos años tiene?
And I'm 100.
100 años. ¿Qué tiempo viven aquí en
And we were born in Vilcabamba and have lived here all our lives. It's our land.
Vilcabamba?
Nuestra tierra.
¿Los dos son casados?
Sí.
No sé, amorcito, yo no sé.
I don't know how old I am. I've never kept count.
No, llevé en apunte.
I just didn't
Me
bother.
casé de
I got married when I was 25.
25. ¿Cuántas veces?
No, una vez.
I only married once. My husband died. He was a bad devil. He almost killed me.
Oh, casi me mata. Oh.
Our guides agreed to take us on a tour of the valley. Our first visit was to a neighborhood bakery on the edge of town. The baker was Mrs. Micaela Quesada, age 103. She works 10 hours a day and bakes several days a week, and the rest of her time is spent in the fields and looking after her family. Mrs. Quesada's granddaughter helps her in the bakery, but they also breed Vilcabamba's sole delicacy, guinea pigs. And guinea pigs seem another unlikely ingredient for anyone looking for the secret of long life. Mrs. Quesada, the 103-year-old baker, has her own explanation. A medical expert who examined her said she was in perfect health, but she disagreed. She says she's deaf, and that's her secret. What she doesn't hear, she doesn't worry about, and not worrying keeps you young. Mrs. Quesada complains that she has few friends of her own age in town. Most of Vilcabamba's centenarians live and work elsewhere in the valley, but she told us she did have a distant relation also living in town. He was here just up the road eating with his family. Mrs. Quesada remembers that this man, Miguel Carpio, was in his 20s when she was young 100 years ago.
In all, you see, I had 12 children, 10 by my wife and 2 outside. I've got 98 grandchildren and 70 great-grandchildren. Great-great-grandchildren are on the way. I could populate a whole town with my family.
Now, how old are you?
127. People who have traveled all over say no one has ever seen an old man like me. One who came here said, "I don't believe you'll ever die."
Carpio hasn't worked for 2 years now. He retired when he was 125. For many years he herded cattle, walking 15 miles a day through the mountains. When he stopped work at 125, he claims he was still as energetic as when he started in the fields back in the 1850s. The only time he ever stopped working was for a fiesta, a feast day.
Murió de vieja, mi tía, ¿no? Murió de vieja.
As far back as Carpio can remember, well over a century, the valley has always been a pretty peaceful place. He thinks this tranquility is one reason why people live so long. We found the 2 men best placed to confirm the reputation for peace and quiet, Vilcabamba's 2 policemen. Unfortunately, they said, old Carpio was right. Nothing ever happened round here. They were anxious to finish their tour of duty and get back to the provincial capital, where there was some lively law-breaking. However, there had been a major event 3 weeks before.
It was an order for an arrest from my commander about 20 days ago, for a woman. I left here about 6 in the afternoon, got there about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Where did you arrest her?
In a place called Matucci.
Why?
It was for being unpleasant. She slandered one woman, then another. I had to arrest her for saying bad things about other people.
And that was your only arrest here?
The only person I've arrested.
A survey done by Ecuadorian doctors could find none of the stress-related illness in Vilcabamba which kills people off here in Britain. There were no heart attacks, no ulcers, and no apparent mental illness. Further up the valley, a man called Gabriel Sanchez farmed a plot many thousands of feet up the mountainside. We set off to film him at work, but the terrain was so rough and steep that by the time we reached him, it was the end of the day, and Sanchez was on his way home to relax.
Drink makes my head go round, drives me crazy. I have resolved not to drink. But smoking is another matter. It is very expensive, but I still smoke whenever I can.
Sanchez's working day is from dawn to dusk, every day, 7 days a week. His plot is a mile up the mountain from his home. Gabriel Sanchez says he's 130.
I'm troubled by a little rheumatism. My secret is to peel and eat donkey meat. It's the best safeguard against illness.
Donkey meat or not, Sanchez is remarkably fit for an old man. He warned us about climbing the mountain again to see him. This steep climb was too much for some visitors who, when they got to his field, were too exhausted to talk. If we came again, it'd be better to wait at his house down below. It'd be easier for us, even if we were 100 years his junior. One scientist suspects that the routine of constant work makes the legs of these mountain people so strong that their calf muscles begin to act as a secondary heart. As the powerful muscles contract, they may actually help pump the blood. Each step, therefore, helps the heart. It's an untried theory, but Vilcabamba is certainly a paradise that thrives on hard work. The medical inquiry found no fat old people at all, and obesity was almost unknown. The valley's secret of long life may indeed be hard work, but Miguel Carpio had a more appealing explanation. Plenty of sex.
Senor Carpio, did you have many lovers?
So many years ago. Don't you go and tell anybody.
What did you like most about your youth? What do you remember most?
La juventud. Así me llevaron aquí a la...
My youth, life in the city.
Una noche me llevaron casi.
Once I had a wonderful night out. But what did I like most? The women. Yes, the women.
Do you still like them?
Love that is finished once and for all, they say. Is it not sad?
Senor Carpio fathered his last child at 80 and enjoys his reputation as the oldest dirty old man in the world. Down the valley, we found yet another old and distant relative of Miguel Carpio. She lives alone on the side of this mountain. Like many of the old people, she eats very little meat, much less than Western scientists regard as necessary to good health. Though Petrona Pineda had 14 children, she doesn't accept one local belief that having many children keeps you young. She thinks it's her diet which keeps her eyes and ears so sharp.
They tell me I'm 110. I don't know what's in the records. Do I eat meat? No, meat is bad for me. It gives me rheumatism and pains. When I eat meat, I get sick. My knees hurt, and these knots appear. This bone hurts, that bone hurts. But when I don't eat meat, I have no pains.
¿Cuál es el secreto que viven tantos años?
What's the secret of living so long? I don't know. I've been asked this question before. It must be the water we drink. We have a habit of letting it run till it is very clear. It must be the water.
Two rivers run through the valley, one cold, the other warm. It's just possible that the rivers could carry trace elements that help the villagers to resist aging, but the water has never been analyzed. The water here is very clean, more than can be said for the people. They don't wash much and some are pretty filthy. So caked with dirt with the skins of the old people that doctors have problems sticking electrocardiograms on them. Ordinary soap and water weren't good enough. In Britain, cleanliness is sometimes held to be next to godliness, But Vilcabamba proves that whatever the secret of long life may be, it's not regular hot baths. We travelled up to the end of the valley to see yet another centenarian. Our guide on this trip was a comparative youngster of 90, but he shared the same problem as the old man we'd come to see, Senor Eraso.
I haven't got a birth certificate. Have you?
No.
No, the same applies to me. I've not got one. The other day they calculated I was 90 years old.
Sí, pues todavía sois más joven que yo. Yo ya soy viejo. Como digo yo, no sé.
You are younger than I am. I'm old. I'm 132 years old.
Pero yo soy
To the local theories of rum, cigarettes and donkey meat, Senor Eraso added his own bizarre recipe for long life. An occasional drink of bear's blood. This man, who claimed to be 132, had a reputation for exaggeration. But more important, he didn't have a birth certificate either. The existence of birth certificates is central to any study of old age. People live to great ages in other mountain areas of the world. The Georgians in the Russian Caucasus and the Hunza people in the Himalayas also claim fame as people who live to a great age. But skeptics complain that there's seldom any documentary proof of the year of birth. What makes Vilcabamba so important is that documentary proof does appear to exist. Vilcabamba's farmers are Roman Catholic, and nearly all have been baptized. The village church has stood here for over a century and has kept annual records. We asked the local priest, Father Bravo, to show us his baptismal records. The parish was founded in 1852, and the first volume of records dated from then, and includes those born before that year.
This is the first book in the archive. Miguel Carpio is in the book. Sanchez, Petrona Pineda, who is still living. Micaela Quezada is proved by this record to have lived over 100 years.
The priest and other experts and doctors who deciphered the faded entries on the worm-eaten pages confirmed that the names of the people we'd met were there, except for the 132-year-old Eraso, who, as he loudly explained, had unaccountably been left out. His frustration was understandable. Here he was, perhaps the oldest man in the world, but because of a clerical oversight, he couldn't prove it.
Here we also have this book, which records deaths over the last years. It records the deaths of people who lived to great age. Jose Toledo died here, aged 140 years.
The register listed many who lived to an astonishing age, but most of the entries were not of old people.
4 years, 1 year, 30 days.
One terrible irony in Vilcabamba, a paradise for the old, but a graveyard for the young. One child in every 2 died before their 10th birthday.
9 months. 4 years. 2 years.
So the people of Vilcabamba, high in the Andes, can offer one documentary proof of their claim to great age. But if they do live so much longer than the rest of us, no one seems to know why. There are almost as many theories as old people. First, climate. The gap in the clouds that shroud the surrounding mountains keeps the valley in pleasant and near constant sunshine, and the climate is enhanced by the pure air of the high Andes. But the way of life itself must help. Old people don't retire, indeed, most work on and are respected members of their communities. They feel wanted and they respond by staying alive. One theory looks to the constant toil in the fields. Though repetitive and often laborious to our eyes, Such work gives them the good health and sense of purpose which similar drudgery in the factories and offices of our industrial society does not. Some scientists look to the diet. The local people don't eat much by our standards, but more remarkably, many of them are almost vegetarian. They just don't like meat. More sophisticated theories suggest trace elements in the soil or water which help preserve life. Geneticists think the answers may be found in the genes of these people, descended from the Spaniards who invaded South America centuries ago. They've intermarried now in near isolation for 300 years, and this may have encouraged an unusual genetic resistance to aging. Probably some combination of all these factors has been allowed to develop in an isolated and tranquil place, and this may account for the village's freedom from stress and disease. Scientists think that thorough research could provide startling insights into the problems of aging. If so, the scientists will have to be quick. The isolation and serenity of the Valley of Paradise may soon be over. A new road has just reached the valley. Now the government hopes to open Vilcabamba to the outside world. And with the road will come the government officials, the journalists, and finally the tourists.
There's a story here in town that you have 2 women. No, that's not true. But they all say that you have 2 women. No, that was in the old days. Not now.
Of getting that guy to do it again. I mean, we do it one way or
the other. Eso es.